Mic check 1 2 1 2. Let me just get, how we do every Monday through Friday here. Check all the platforms, Facebook. Test. Facebook, we're good. Facebook, we're good. Share it out. LinkedIn, let's do it. LinkedIn, let's do it. LinkedIn. Mic check 1 2 1 2. LinkedIn is the place to be. Yeah. Testing. LinkedIn testing. Test LinkedIn. Good. We're good on LinkedIn, and let me just check YouTube real quick, and then we'll get it going. Test YouTube, we good. All right, YouTube, we good. All right, let's get it right into it. Good afternoon, good morning, good whatever time of day in which you may be consuming this. For those of you, it's the first time listening to me, first time in my world or introducing. Let me just introduce myself to you guys real quick. The name as one Crookshank. I am your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, former Division I college football player, and current 5-time published author and educator. And what I do, what I created, what the whole Move Swiftly framework, the business is all about, is taking the lessons that you learn on the football field, in particular the teamwork lessons that you learn on the football field, and applying them to businesses. So they have a group of employees, a staff that is moving as efficiently and has the eagerness and has the hunger and has the mindset of a championship high school or youth football team. That is what we do in a nutshell here in the Move Swiftly world. We are here on another Wednesday, and what we do every Wednesday is we break down the word that I have coined, that yours truly has coined, called Wintrepreneur Wednesday, not to be confused with entrepreneur or intrapreneur. It kind of means the same thing, but being the innovator that I am, I always got to bring my own spin to things. You're going to learn that, especially if you're a new person to my world. If you're new coming in, you're going to learn that about me, that I am always about taking the things, some things that are already existing, and bringing my own spin to it, and putting a little bit of that as one Crookshank gloss to it. All right. So wintrepreneur, pretty much meaning the same thing as an entrepreneur. However, again, I added the W at the beginning, basically saying that it's basically describing a person who has the mindset of an entrepreneur, however, has been fortunate enough to have a job or be in a situation where they're getting paid every 2 weeks with a company that's very much in alignment with their entrepreneurial vision. All right. And sometimes I'll talk about, I tell people all the time, I'm the ultimate wintrepreneur. In fact, the book that I am working on as we speak, that will be out before we get to 2026. That is a promise. It will be ready before 2026. The book number 6 will, because, I have the whole book 6, 2026 in my mind. So anyway, that book is going to be all about wintrapreneurship. And what I've done is, at times I'll feature a person who was a wintrapreneur, or I'll give an example of something that I've gone through that had the wintrapreneur mindset. One of my actual keynote speeches and workshop is about the concept and the idea of being a wintrapreneur. All right. So I do it every single Wednesday to really hit you guys to the term and understand what the term is all about. And today we are discussing the legendary, the late legend, Coach John Vassos. And just to give you kind of a preview of what we're going to be discussing today is when I first learned what the word philanthropy meant, when I first learned that word, when I learned what philanthropy meant. Again, this is a word that I didn't know what it meant till later on in life, probably as I got older, probably high school, college age or whatever. When I first learned what that word meant, this was the guy that I thought of. All right. I first learned the word philanthropy, and this dude, Coach John Vassos, was the man that I thought of. And this is what life is all about, folks. You know, when you grow up, you don't know everything. You learn things along the way. You learn words, you learn the meanings of things. And then you start putting faces to those new meanings of words. All right. And I'm going to tell you right now, again, I'm going to say it and make sure I'm nice and clear when I say this so you understand the importance of it. When I first learned what the word philanthropy meant, John Vassos's face came blaring in my head. All right. So what we'll do today, I'm going to get through some announcements first. I'm going to let the article play. Well, first of all, I'm going to let today's Move Swiftly thought play that I had an oversight. I misquoted something when I said it. Not too big of an oversight, pretty much just quoting the wrong person. But the quote is the same, but it's just pretty much quoting the wrong person. I'm going to let today's Move Swiftly thought play, and then I'm going to let the Medium article play, and then we're going to discuss the journey that I've had with the late Coach John Vassos and the importance of philanthropy, the importance of fatherhood, the importance of making sure you are continuously looking out and doing things for the young people, you know, giving back to the young people in a way in which you will never, ever, 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 ever be forgotten. So all that being said, let's just get through some announcements really, really quick, and then we'll get right into today's discussion. First and foremost, announcement number one, West Palm Beach. If you are interested in free boxing lessons, just hit that QR code that you see right there on the screen. If you are listening to this via audio, go to freeboxing.makeyourmove.com. That's freeboxing.makeyourmove.com. That's MAKEYAMOVE.com. I do them every 2 weeks. And we have a great time. You know, you get in shape. It's part of, I'm a group leader for the church I go to, Life Church. So, you know, we grow in our faith, we grow in our just mindset and our resilience. And it's just a really, really good time. So make sure you get in contact with me if you're interested in that. Also, like I said, business owners. If you are a business owner, here's what I need you to do. I need you to go to freeguide.makeyourmove.com. That's freeguide.makeyourmove.com. Just simply go. And what I did is I created 10 steps, 10 bullet points in which you could be using right now to create longevity in your business, to make it so, again, that staff, the people that you have working with you, working under you and things of that nature, make it so they know their roles and they're willing to get better and they want to get better day in and day out. And Patreon, be sure to tap into the Patreon link. We are building out that community of like-minded business owners in which we can really work together. Regardless of where you are financially, there is a place for you in each one of the sections, whether it's regular season, preseason, or postseason. There's something available for you. All of that is available in your one-stop shop, makeyourmove.com. That's MAKEYAMOVE.com. As you can see here on the screen, if you're looking at this visually, you can shop, you can join the Patreon, you can book me to speak, or you can just simply learn more about us. We'll learn more about this As One Crookshank guy, this one and only Move Swiftly speaker guy. And you can also listen to the podcast, the number one podcast, by the way, on innovative teamwork, the Move Swiftly podcast. It comes out new episodes every single day. All right, let's get into the discussion today, man. You know, this one hits another chord for me because I first met Coach Vassos I first met him as a competitor. You know, we were on the opposite sides. I was playing for the Brick Cheney Wild Warriors. He was actually the head coach for the Albany Bears that beat us twice that year. So before I get into it, I want you guys to understand the power that comes with coaching. And yesterday, when I talked about my tribe of people and the group of people that I look to serve every day, I mentioned the sports coaches, whether in particular football coaches that have an entrepreneurial mindset. I mentioned the single moms and I mentioned the business owners of 20 or more employees. All right. So when it comes to that mindset of an entrepreneurial sports coach, an entrepreneurial youth football coach or high school coach that is keeping their options open and they're willing to kind of put their fingers in certain things, but everything is about what's best for the kids. This image, and I tell people all the time, when it comes to naming your ideal client, this is the kind of thing, this is the kind of effect that they have on your life. So when it comes to today's Move Swiftly thought, and I'm gonna let it play, just know I made a mistake because I had for the longest time I thought it was Bill Parcells who made the quote, "Perfect practice makes perfect," but it's actually Vince Lombardi. So it wasn't Bill Parcells. So, and when you hear me talk about perfect practice makes perfect, just know I made a mistake. It wasn't Bill Parcells who said it, was actually Vince Lombardi. But again, like I said, it's not a huge mistake. The quote still is the same. So let me let this play. Then I'm going to let the article play that has just come out about Coach Vassos. And then we'll kind of go from there as we tailor as we normally do over here. So enjoy. It's about 6 minutes. So let me let it play now. I haven't even listened to it myself.
Let's get it. That's one Crookshank, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, checking in for a daily Move Swiftly thought, giving you a perspective on teamwork that you will not get anywhere else. Bill Parcells, the great Bill Parcells. Bill Parcells, legendary football coach. Look him up. I believe it's 2 Super Bowls with the Giants, and he's done a lot of great things with the Jets. He spent some time with the Cowboys. You know the name Bill Parcells. If you're in the sports world, if you're in the football world, more specifically, you just, love motivation in general. Bill Parcells is one of the football gods. I think you can actually classify him as one of the football gods. All right. He once said, "Perfect practice makes perfect." All right. And I loved the kind of distinction in the normal quote. See, the way that quote gets communicated by the masses, or the way the masses have taken that quote and made it their own, is they've chopped it up. And they've removed the perfect part. That you hear it all the time. You hear the typical, prototypical kind of nursery rhyme bullshit. Practice makes perfect. Practice makes perfect. Practice makes perfect. No, my friend. No, my friend. The legendary Bill Parcells once said, "Perfect practice makes perfect." Because if you practice in some bullshit, that's not going to be a good thing, right? So technically, I guess that's right, but it's also very important that you make the distinction that your practice has to be perfect in order for it to be perfect, in order for the result to be perfect. That's what he's saying. Perfect practice makes perfect, not simply practice makes perfect. And I say all that because it's going to bring me to today's Move Swiftly thought. Yesterday, so for those of you who do not know, I do teach at a school named the Center for Creative Education, and it's a newer school. All right. It's not, it hasn't been around for a year, even a decade yet in terms of the school, the foundation school. Now, the after school program has been around for quite some time, and they're used to running things like an after school program. So needless to say, it's been an adjustment on everybody's end, figuring out how to navigate the school space and, make sure everything is safe and sound for the kids, and, doing a lot of the logistical work that just comes with, handling people's kids and making sure you're following things from a protocol standpoint and making sure the kids are safe and secure and all that kind of stuff. So we've implemented a brand new system in terms of communication. And this, I think the name is Voicera or something like that, where, we have these new high technology walkie-talkies to communicate with adults and make sure certain things are straight. So, during spring break, now that we're in the middle of spring break, we as teachers, we had to train for that and plan for that and all that good stuff, all that jazz. I'm not going to bore you with the details about that. But what I will tell you is the person who came in, excuse me, the person who came in to do the presentation, he actually made my day. He did. He made my day. He made my day because he validated the work that I do every single day. He validated he kind of brought me to this place where I was thinking about Bill Parcells' great saying and understanding how crucial and important perfect practice actually is. Perfect practice actually is. Perfect practice actually is, because it was after I was through with my training and I had to I was doing some paperwork stuff like hole punching papers and stuff like that, for the kids to get back. So you get organized. We actually have a big trip coming up not this week, but the first week of April. I have a big trip getting planned with the kids. There's going to be some kids from the UK coming to visit us, and fortunately, I'll be a part of some of the festivities that we're doing with those kids, right? So anyway, he comes up to me while I'm in the copy room and doing some work, filling out paperwork and all that kind of stuff. And he looks at me, he goes, "You know what, man? You have a great voice for radio." And let me just give you the context a little bit, because the context of the situation was, so for those of you who don't know, what I do is I show up to the school early every single day, no matter what time I'm supposed to be there. I show up there early every single morning, Monday through Friday, so I can record my live stream. And I do that Monday through Friday. And the teacher that's normally there at that hour, we always see each other as making my coffee, and we're kind of chatting about the day and things like that. I chatted about what happened yesterday, just chatting, and I'm telling her a little bit about what I'm gonna be doing for the live stream sometimes here and there. But bottom line is, she's always seeing me there early with the mindset of, I got to show the record, I got to get my mind right, all that kind of stuff. So he said that, he goes, "You have a great voice for radio." He said that right in front of her, and I looked at her, I said, see what I mean? You got to use the opportunity. You got to utilize this position that we have at TC as teachers, where again, all of us, not just us, but every single teacher out there in America is all underpaid. And a message I would send to every teacher is, you gotta use the opportunity as a means to an end. So you're practicing certain things and getting your skills right, so we can lead to other opportunities. And when you hear people from the outside looking at it, who had absolutely he knew me didn't know me from anywhere. He comes to me and goes, "Yeah, you have a great voice for radio." And then I gave him my YouTube channel and told him to subscribe, and tell him, I was just kind of telling him a little bit about the topics that I normally discuss and things like that. And we ended up having a great dialogue. This is my point. It's not about you necessarily knowing when that opportunity, or when the validation is going to come. It's about you consistently committing to the process, committing to the practicing in a perfect manner. So when people do see you, it starts to exude and ooze out of you to the point where they go out of their way to give you compliments and give you, praise for something that they picked up on you in terms of how your mindset is. That's the way it works. And that's why I encourage you to continuously practice in a perfect way. Perfect practice makes perfect. All right. So all that being said.
So like I said, it wasn't Bill Parcells. It was actually Vince Lombardi. However, as you can see, even though regardless of who said it, it's a mindset thing in terms of how you interpret it, or how you decide to go about applying it. All right. How you decide to go about applying the element of perfect practice. And again, I'm going to stick to the example in which I just shared. This person who's, teaching us a certain types of things with walkie-talkies, this high form of technology. Obviously, I have to say certain things to test it out. And then when you hear that voice, they pick up on it. Okay, the things that I practice every day, I do it in a very efficient in terms of how I practice it, very detail oriented in terms of what it is I talk about. Again, I come up with these show topics about by Saturday. By Saturday, I have pretty much a whole lineup of things that I know I'm going to be discussing, whether or not I do have a guest. In fact, what you're going to notice if you follow this YouTube channel is that it's not going to be as many guests as I've had before. However, it's going to be no shortage, no drop off in content. In fact, it's probably going to be more content, more things I'm talking about, because of how perfectly I'm practicing building out this voice. And when it comes to being an educator, when it comes to having the ability and having the opportunity to educate kids, the things that I learned more from this guy that you see on the screen, I learned more from him than any actual teacher that I had, especially at that age. Some of the college professors that I had really had a strong influence on me. He's actually comparable. I can only think of one, to be honest with you, off the top of my head, in terms of a college professor or a high school teacher that had more of an influence on me growing up. Now that I'm really thinking about it, I think I can only name one, Professor Farran from Stony Brook University. Outside of that, there was definitely Remedios. He was my world religion teacher in high school. Definitely him. He had a strong impact on me. Outside of those two, I can't tell you that any other adults had a real impact on the way I thought outside of this man that you're looking at on the screen. Let me move it up. Outside of this guy right here that you're looking at, I can't think of any teacher that, again, outside of the two that I mentioned, are there comparable. Not to say that they had more of an impact on me than the late John Vassos, but between the two teachers that I mentioned, who I would have to really put some thought into it in terms of who had more of an impact on me. But for the sake of this, because I'm actually thinking about it, you're talking about a man who coached me for one season, who had more of an impact on me than 99% of the actual teachers that I had. And it was all because of mentality, all because of mindset, all because of how we first met to how it actually, actually initially met as opposition. We met on opposite sides of the field, but then we went out and we won that championship. And then when I saw him, when I got to high school, I'm going to document, this whole story is going to be played in just 1 second, but let me just get this out. But from the day I met him as an opponent by the time I became a high school senior, you're talking about a man that taught me what it really means to pay attention to young people, what it really means to be a philanthropist, what it really means to give a shit. All right. The quote that you often hear me say, you hear me say it all the time. If you're a regular consumer, you hear me say, they don't give a shit about how much you know until they know about how much you give a shit. And the more of a PG version of that is they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. This guy right here showed us how much he actually cared through his action. All right. So let me let it play before I really get going to it. I'm gonna let it play and then we're gonna kind of go from there. So
Entrepreneur Wednesday, the legacy of Coach John Vassos. To my regular Move Swift Plus Lie readers, welcome back to another Entrepreneur Wednesday. For the newcomers, let's break it down. What's a Entrepreneur? It's a term I coined for someone who has the mindset of an entrepreneur, but has found a job that perfectly aligns with their entrepreneurial spirit. Yes, it's similar to entrepreneur, but this is my world, and when I adopt a concept, I remix it and serve it in a way that resonates with the people I'm called to serve. This week's Entrepreneur feature, a man I hold immense gratitude for, the late Coach John Vassos. From opponent to mentor, we officially met on opposite sidelines. I was a captain for the Briggs Cheney White Oak Warriors, and he was head coach of the team that beat us twice that season, the Olney Bears. That second loss came in the championship game, but fate wasn't done writing our story. 2 years later, Coach Vassos joined the White Oak Warriors as our head coach. We went undefeated and made history, winning the organization's first ever championship. Let me walk you through what made him unforgettable. 51st, good game, man. I'll never forget it. We just lost an overtime thriller. I was playing defensive end that day, moved to the spot specifically because the coach trusted I wouldn't fall for a fake pitch. Well, I did. Their quarterback, Deontay Twyman, go ahead and look him up. Faked me out.
Whoa. I gotta give him some love now. I gotta show you. When I say Deontay Twyman, this is the guy I mean. This was the guy. So that game, I'll never forget that game because this was the first time, and I'll even give you the lead up to the practice of that game. They moved me to defensive end because we're playing the Olney Bears. And I mean, listen, we're at what, 6th grade, 7th grade? Yeah, I think we're like 6th grade kids at this point. No one really, it's not like the world we live in now where everything is on media and you can go look these people up. You actually, if a player was good, you actually had to play them and then see if they're good. It wasn't a matter of being able to look somebody up. So I didn't know who Deontay Twyman was until that actual Saturday in which I was the defensive end and Deontay was the quarterback, right? And they were telling me all week, it's like, Oswald, we're moving you here because we trust you as a defensive end are not going to fall for the little fake pitch that he likes to do. He fakes it, and then he gets the end to bite, and then he runs around, and he's one of those kids that has an arm. He has an arm. So, of course, it's overtime. We play one hell of a game. It's overtime. Deontay, this guy, again, he's coming up as a basketball player, but he really was a great football player coming up. He fakes the pitch. I bite on the pitch. I bite on it. and he gets around me, and I think he throws like the flat route. It's either a flat route or he just takes it in himself. And I remember like, oh my God, I looked at the sideline, I see my dad, and he's, damn it, the whole coach. And so I was broken by that. It was crazy because, it was after, not the next year, but the year after, Deontay and I became captains of that championship team. And, Coach Vassos was the head coach, and it was like, dog, he got me on the listen, this is well over 20 years later, and I can document that play like it was yesterday. That's how broken I was, because I was trusted, man. I was trusted to not bite on that pitch, and he did such a good job with it. He's taking it, pitching it, and the DM being my stupid ass, I bite, and then he's out of it. So again, man, that's the game. That's how real the game is, though, right? That's how real the game is. That's what led to me, having a brand new channel where it's film session Saturday, and I'm able to break these things down and, do a lot of the work. So I want to make sure I made that point too. So let me go back a little bit.
Game, man. I'll never forget it. We just lost an overtime thriller. I was playing defensive end that day, moved to the spot specifically because the coach trusted I wouldn't fall for a fake pitch. Well, I did. Their quarterback, Deontay Twyman, go ahead and look him up, faked me out, and it cost us the game. I was in tears at the post-game handshake line when Coach Vassos stopped, looked me in the eye, and said, 51st, good game, man. That moment stuck with me. Not because we lost, but because he saw me. He noticed.
Mm-hmm.
Later, during the trophy presentation, I remember how natural he was as a speaker. His poise and leadership hinted at something deeper, that youth coaching, done right, translates into the business world. Championship season, life lessons. Fast forward to 2002.
So that was just 2 years later. So from number 50, when I wore 51, then we went on. We actually beat Olney that next year, but Olney was they were banned from going to the playoffs, so we played them in the regular season. We beat them, but I don't think Coach Vassos coached that team because they got caught doing something. There was semantics bullshit because they were practicing in the off season or something like that, and then the powers that be banned them from the playoffs or some nonsense. This is one of the reasons why we left that league in the first place. So
to 2002, the two teams, yes, even Deontay, merged and joined the Pop Warner Youth Football League. You can watch how that move turned out in this video. Here are 3 moments from that year I carry with me even today. 1, he served the parents. One game in particular stands out. We were playing in Baltimore during the height of the DC sniper crisis. Most Montgomery County teams had canceled. Coach Vassos, in his pregame speech, reminded us how lucky we were to play. That same day, team apparel had just arrived. I happened to be near him when he opened the box. He handed me a shirt and said, "Make sure you give this to your dad." My dad still has that shirt to this day.
Yes, he does.
2, he respected the trenches. I was an offensive lineman that season. Coach Vassos was the head coach, but he also coached the O-line. Casual fans glorify the QBs, running backs, and wideouts, but he made sure we knew how important our role was. After we won it all in Orlando, he bought 5 copies of the same action shot, 1 for each starting lineman. 3, he spoke like a champion. At the post-game ceremony captured on an old-school VHS tape, "Young folks, ask your parents." He looked us in the eye and said, "Congratulations. To come into a brand new league and have a standard set so high, and to go out and achieve that, today is a great day. And may every day of your life be as great as today is." I can still see the glow on his face as he said it. What made Coach Vassos a trapreneur? Simple. He showed up on and off the field. After that championship season, I didn't see him much. I went on to play linebacker at Good Counsel, earned first-team WCAC honors, and committed to Carson Newman College in Tennessee. Not exactly a household name. Some of my own teachers had never heard of it. But then, I ran into Coach Vassos again, at a birthday party at his house. I hadn't seen him in years. He introduced me to his wealthy friends and said, "This is Aswand, he'll be attending Carson Newman College." I could have cried. That moment taught me something I carry into every room as an educator, father, and businessman. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. He showed me he cared, and I've never forgotten it. Call to action.
So That was a lot, man. These are, and when I do this and I talk a lot, I have a lot of stuff out there. I put a lot of material out there. I put my heart out there on the internet. These moments are very real and raw to me. All right. So when it comes to everything I read, that or everything that you just heard in that article, that doesn't fully capture it, believe it or not. The reason I have to, so a lot of the reason that I have to align my live streams with my articles, with my Moves 50 thoughts, and, work towards a system where everything is kind of moving in alignment in one full swoop, is because when it comes to living in this content creation world, when it comes to living in this public speaking world, when it comes to actually being a public figure without actually asking to be one, but kind of falling into it because you're sharing these stories and sharing these things on your heart, understand how real these moments were. When I bring up this number 51, a lot of people got to understand, and then you won't know it unless you actually know me. You won't know it unless you were one of my teammates. You won't know it unless you were actually there in 2000 when we watched our coach die on the field. All right. We watched our coach, RIP to Coach Art. He passed away right there on the field. And so much of our innocence as 9-year-old boys, I believe we were fifth grade at that. Yeah, we were fifth grade at that point. So much of what we had to live through in terms of what we were going through with our own organization. And then when you have a game, the game that I described with Oni, and that thrill of a game, that, the fact that we lost in overtime, the fact that it was evenly, all that kind of stuff, that's when it really starts hitting you, where somebody else notices you, number 51, good game. You see how much it really touches your heart when you're putting your all into it. And that's really what life is about, man. That element, that concept, that understanding how precious life actually is. So, to go from that moment and then to have a season where we were both screwed, both only, I'll say it like this. There was a league, the Capital Beltway League, all right, that was it was littered with politics. Again, we're playing football in the DMV, right? It's littered with politics. It's littered with politicians and people. There's so much of the stuff that I still to this day couldn't explain to you. So the fact that, whatever was going on with the off season, that the adults and they're practicing, that's fair. The adults get to be punished or whatever, but to do it to the kids, to do it for the only Bears, the actual players, who ain't got nothing to do with that. That sixth grade, they were just doing what they're told. They don't know if they're breaking laws. Why ban them from a playoff run? You got to understand, Olney had won the Capital Beltway League championship the year before, that specific Olney team. So the next year, the fact that they're banned from the playoffs, even though, again, they were an opponent of ours at that time, it's just bullshit. It's just bullshit seeing that you're going to take it away from the kids. Now, again, you want to ban some adults, you want to keep some adults away from kids because they're breaking league rules. I'm all with that. But whatever got said, the point of it shouldn't be, I'm going to take this opportunity away from the young kids that are doing something productive. And that's what I thought as an adult. And obviously, when I played, I didn't look at it like that. I looked at it as, we don't got to deal with Olney no more. But as an adult, you think about these things and you say, man, it's just wrong for them to take that moment away from the kids. All right. So we go through that year, and then the next year, because actually that year, we as the Brick Cheney White Oak Warriors, we got screwed that year as well when we made it all the way to the Super Bowl. And, we had to deal with scales and, guys were being weighed in and all sorts of nonsense that I'd be talking about for hours if I have to bring all that up. But anyway, when we got to that 2002 year, that I refer to as that season, that championship season, in which, again, I'm like, this is third year in a row at this point, fourth year actually in a row, being a captain on a team, being voted captain. And whenever you're a captain, especially if we're talking about youth football, when you're captain on the team, you and that head coach have a very, very special relationship. All right. You're talking about, and this is true when you're talking, this is why I tell people, I'm one of the people that can teach your business or teach your staff, or teach your employee, or teach you as a business owner how to build out a staff, how to build out a system so your business moves like a championship high school or youth football team. All right. Because I was a captain on the teams at those levels. And when you're a captain of the football team at the youth and the high school level, you're building a relationship with a coach that is really, really special. You're building a relationship with the head coach that is a really, really special bond that's not ever going to be broken, especially for those 3 months or 3 or 4 months in regards to however long that season is. It's a real special bond. And anybody that's ever been a captain at the youth or the high school level on a football team, they will tell you the same thing. Whether you're the captain or the head coach, you know how special that bond is. So seeing that it was only 1 year where it was myself, Deontay, Nick, and Mike, and again, I get named the names right off the spot. We had a very special relationship with Coach Vassos because he was the head coach and he gave the players he gave all of our teammates an opportunity to vote a group of people in as captain. So when you get voted in like that, again, there's a very special connection. So there were things that I had the opportunity to see when it comes to Coach Vassos that were just sticking, like just constantly sticking. And I couldn't capture everything in the article. Trust me, I couldn't capture everything in the article because of it was just so much of the little things. But I'm gonna break a few of them down here. First things first is his ability to allow us to see a bigger vision, to see the quote unquote, see the forest beyond the tree, see what the bigger picture looked like. And he kept that picture in his head. I'll give you a story. There was a speech he was giving to us where it was one of those days where you really question on if you want to play football or not. Those days do exist. All right. Yeah, as much as we love the game, going into it, the minute those pads go on, that sun starts hitting you and you got, running sprints and you got to know this play and know that play. You got coaches yelling at your ass. You really start questioning if you want to really do this. Start looking yourself in the mirror and say, hey, man, it looks fun on TV, but don't. This is different. So we was on that kind of energy for a time there. And what he did to bring us back up was he goes, guys, look, this is how we're going to break it down. We're going to, go ahead and win MFA, which is the Maryland football. So we're going to win MFA and we go win the Eastern region. And then there it is. Beautiful. Sunny Florida, guys. We get out of this. We're going to beat it. He was able to bring us up with that energy, right? So from day one, that's what he was able to do. And I'll tell you, the mark of a great leader is when you're able to pick your guys up. You're able to pick your guys up during times where you really need them going. You really need to have the mentality of hitting a trigger and being able to hit that trigger whenever it's needed. He was great with that. He was absolutely fantastic with that. I'll give you another example. There was a team in DC, all right, team in DC that we scrimmaged. And let me just tell you, man, look, one of the things that the pundits, we'll call them the pundits, the people that would talk a lot of shit about the White Oak Warriors were, there's a bunch of suburban kids. They ain't got no hood in them. They don't know how to really play hood ball. They ain't really black like that. They ain't really thugs. Like they don't really get out like that. And so we scrimmaged this team in DC. And as we were walking to scrimmage, then we noticed that they were in black jerseys. So we were wearing black jerseys. They were wearing black jerseys, but we're walking and they're talking shit. Anybody that's played on that team remembers exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, they're talking shit. They're like, oh, there's a bunch of those spoiled ass boys. Them boys, they can't run with us and all that. So we heard them talking. And then Coach Vassos comes back and he goes, all right, guys, look, we might have to cancel the scrimmage because we're both in black jerseys, this, that, and the third. And we said, no, we want to play them. We want to play them. They talking mess. They doing a lot of church. They doing a lot of this. They doing a lot of this. So Coach Vassos hears us. He goes, all right. He goes to his car and pulls out a bunch of other colored pennies, like blue, red, yellow, whatever, just a bunch of pennies because he's in the sports like that. So his car is packed with other colored jerseys. And we put the jerseys on and then we scrimmage them and we bust that ass. I mean, we kicked that ass up and down DC to the point where a lot of people know the name Surly Monzi. Everyone that's ever watched Surly Monzi play will tell you that was the biggest zone he's ever gotten into. He was in a different world. I think the image that has stuck with me for years and still gonna is like planted right here, right? Is when at the end of the game or at the end of the scrimmage when it was all done, he was walking back to his car, holding a bunch of pennies by himself. It's like, yeah, I got a damn team. All right. So you went from that. So we bust this team's ass in DC. And then the first game, understand, this was the year that we were dealing with the DC Sniper, right? The DC Sniper, that was 2002. And we were one of the few teams in Montgomery County, Maryland area that we were still able to play certain games because we were lucky enough to have several games in Baltimore, and we had to, travel pretty significantly. We were able to get out of Montgomery County to get away from this psycho that's just, literally just killing people. Like, just you go look up the DC Sniper. We were right in that, right? So the first game we played a team named Northwood, and the Northwood Rams, you can look them up as well, is the team that usually would have won. Actually, you know what? Let me just do it instead of talking about it. I'm going to do it right now. The Northwood Rams, let me see, because I'm pretty sure it's Rams. Yep, Northwood Rams. The Northwood Rams, Pop Warner. Baltimore. Yep, this was so this was normally the team that came out of Maryland. Let me pull this up for you real quick. So this was normally the team that came out of Maryland when at least when we made the transition. The Northwood Rams, right? I remember actually watching them on ESPN, and they were the big dogs. They were the big dogs. They were the big dogs. The Northwood Rams were the big dogs in terms of the Maryland Football Association, and they were always the ones coming out of Maryland. So all camp, he's reminding us, you guys are walking into national champions. They are national champions. They're he had us in a different zone to the point where we felt like we were going to Baltimore ready for war. It was war because the Northwood Rams, anybody that was around during that time, I know I'm giving you guys a little bit of a history lesson, but anyone that remembers that time, that 2002 time, remembers the Northwood Rams were regularly on ESPN winning that Pop Warner championship. And that was going to be the first game, brand new league. And we're going up against that team. We go in there and we tap that ass. We absolutely blast that ass. And again, being a captain, I was privy to certain conversations. So by the time we won the game convincingly. By the time it was halftime, the result was already known. And I remember picking up a conversation with the ref. The ref was having a conversation with the other refs, and they were just saying, like, look, this is the first time this team is even in the league. And the other ref was like, damn, all right, y'all might have to do something. Okay. So that went down. And then I had mentioned the game against Northwest in the article, to where, he reminded us during that time how lucky and how blessed we were, how great of an opportunity we had to play the game because everybody else was dealing with the DC Sniper. And then as he's going along, he's making sure that the parents are a part of this. You see, this is the big key. This is the big key about everything you do in business. And this is really where I think so much of being a entrepreneur, so much of the example he sets, so much of what it's all about, I think it is important that as you move along in your entrepreneurial vision, as you start to see results, as you start to feel yourself getting better, as you start to see some buy-in the same way that season went for us in 2002, that you're bringing people with you. All right. You're showing your appreciation whenever the opportunity comes up. This was random, guys. I'm telling you, but the person that lived it, I lived it. All right. I cannot do the work I do without these examples that I can actually just speak on. It was random. We were all over the place. We as a team in Montgomery County football during that time, it was very possible. It's very easy for the government, police, whatever it is, some politician to make the decision, look, we're shutting down all football because of the DC sniper. We're shutting down all football in Montgomery County. We were that close. They were about to shut down schools. They were about to shut the whole thing down. The fact that we were able to play a game in Baltimore that Saturday was unheard of, and we got to see it. So what happened was, like I mentioned, the White Oak Warrior apparel came in. Apparently, I guess, he made a big order, a lot of orders where T-shirts finally came in and yada, yada, yada. And as soon as the T-shirt came, a bunch of T-shirts came in, he hands me one and he goes, make sure your dad gets one. All right, as one, make sure your dad gets one. And that's what I mean when I say, even as things are going along, you got to think about the people that are helping out. It was my father that was the one dropping me to these games, dropping me to these practices, my mother doing it, my sister doing it. It was the family buy-in. And as opportunities come up, you got to show your appreciation for it. I alluded to it throughout the entire article. And that was the real big lesson throughout this entire thing. He himself had a son on the team who was also a co-captain with me. And when you're able to look at things from that lens, the way you run your organization, the way you run your business, the way you touch people, the way you tap into a person's heart, and you really have people believing what it's all about, I'm guaranteeing you're going to see a result exactly the way you better than you actually predicted it. Because when you have people riding with you and they thinking, all right, that dude's really looking out for me, looking out for us, looking out for the organization, and they're thinking about the little things. Okay, now you get buy-in. Now you get people that are going to rock with you, right? So we win that game in Baltimore, and to me, and I've said it on previous shows when I talked about it, that was the defining game. Nobody was beating us after that game. Nobody was beating us after that game in Baltimore. Absolutely. You could have put you could have put the Baltimore Ravens on that. But I know I'm exaggerating with that one. Nobody our age. All right. We'll say it like that. No youth football team in the country was beating us after that game. That was the confidence boost, because we started out that game. We were down 14-7 and we didn't bat an eye. We did not bat an eye. Coach Jamie came out and he was like, you guys ready? All 11 of us looked at him and said, yes, sir. Like, we did not budge at all. By the time we got to halftime, he told us, he reiterated it. He goes, look, all that, they're done. They're done. They came out doing a lot of chirping. And then he reminded us about what we went through in DC and how this one was chirping and that one's talking and that one's talking and that. And y'all just shut up and played. Y'all just shut up and played football. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. So we get through that. We win that game in Baltimore. Then we traveled to New York. I personally had a terrible game. We won an ugly one. Our closest game was 21-0. And then we go to Pennsylvania and we play a team. We play some team in Pennsylvania. We beat them. And I remember that it was a blowout game. By the time we got to halftime, and we played that game at a high school. So we get into the locker room at halftime, and we're all screaming. We're all yelling because this was the game that took us to Florida, baby. We're going to Florida, baby. We're going to Florida, baby. We're going to Orlando, Florida for a national championship first year as we combine, right? So we come to Florida, and he keeps us focused even though it's a very distracting environment. In fact, I remember there was one time we were just out of hand. I mean, I think playing in the pool, just doing stuff that, again, little preteen boys do. And he rips us. He gives us a real tongue out, like a ass kicking in terms of how we are acting and things like that. And by the time he sends us back to our room, he goes, go take out some damn homework and do your job. You get a vacation. He went in on us, right? So by the time we win that game, like I mentioned in our goal, I have his speech memorized. And when he got asked the question or he got presented the trophy, he goes, look, guys, to have a standard, to set your standard so high, to have a goal set so high, go out and achieve that goal is amazing. And may every day of your life be as great as today, because today is a great day. And that last piece right there, may every day of your life be as great as today, because today is a great day. That last piece of it absolutely has stuck. It has absolutely stuck, because there's so much you learn from being a damn middle schooler to being a grown ass man, to where you have to take that mindset of just waking up, having a day, having another opportunity to be great. Make every day of your life as great as that day. Okay. So that's sixth grade. I think that was eighth grade, seventh or eighth grade. Long story short is, after that season, after that moment that I described in Orlando, Florida, it had been, years since I had seen him, right? Because I'm at I'm at Good Counsel High School. Good Counsel is another challenge in itself. I got to get focused. I got to get my mind right. In fact, I remember going to the orientation. I remember going to the orientation at Good Counsel and hearing Coach Malloy speak, legendary Coach Malloy. And I'll probably do a feature about him on another Wednesday. But I remember listening to Coach Malloy speak, and it was a whole cafeteria of youth football, like people, like youth football dads, parents, because again, he's active. Coach Malloy was very active in the youth football world, and he would get a whole cafeteria full of youth football players and their parents there, so he could, really drop his and let people know what it is and what it's all about. So I remember him saying, and he got real serious at one point. He goes, look, this is high school football. A lot of you guys are not guaranteed to play. All right. There's not some program where you got to get your 10 plays in and this, that. Some of y'all ain't going to play. Some of y'all need to hear that. And I remember the conversation I had with my dad the next morning. My dad said, you hear what Coach Malloy said? Yeah, they're not guaranteed to play. And I told my dad, like, that ain't going to be me. That is not going to be me. That is, I'm going to go to Good Counsel and absolutely make some motherfucking noise. All right. You're about to do me like that. Right. Because I mean, it's just that thing that I had as a White Oak Warrior. I really felt like I was walking into a situation where it's like, okay, this is where Aswan Crookshank has to really make his mark. It's to make his mark, right? So what happened was I really, I couldn't stay in touch with like the White Oak Warrior like that 4 years. I was now I say it confidently, but it really was a challenge. All right. Being at that school, you can go look at the names and look at the people that have played at that school. It's not easy to play at a place like Good Counsel or DeMatha, Gonzaga, St. John's. Again, it's a lot of talent. And I tell people all the time, if I would have stayed for one more season, if I didn't graduate when I did, I myself would not have been good enough to start at that place, because they were bringing in so many great players as I was moving along in my journey, right? So being that I said that, I want to make sure I said that so you guys understand that's why I went Division II coming out of high school. I didn't start out going Division I. I ended up playing Division I, which is where I'll show you guys, because I got to do a better job of promoting the book. So, but where transferring D1 came from is because I transferred from a D2 school to a Division I program. But right out of high school, I went to a Division II program. All right. And I'm going to close you out with this concept, because I mentioned it at the beginning of today's live stream. It got mentioned in the article, and every single time the name Coach John Vassos comes up, I think of the quote, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? So I do what I have to do in high school on the football field. Now, academics, again, that's a different conversation. But long story short, I end up getting an opportunity to play at a Division II program, which again, me being the adult version of myself looks at that as a very huge accomplishment and something that I can appreciate. Back then, when you play at a good council, you're like D2, yeah, it's like, you ain't really, you know what I'm saying? And that's just growth and maturity and stuff like that. And that's another conversation. That's something I actually dive into in the book as well. And I've had that conversation. I'll continue to speak on that mentality, especially with, NIL and the portal and how all this stuff is working. You better believe I'm going to be diving into all of that in a whole lot more detail, especially now that I know how to use live stream and, get my technology game right. See, before, when I was doing my podcast, I didn't know how to really tap into live stream and all that and, get my technology, all of that. I had to record and then hope. But now I'm going to be ready for that. I'm doing it well, getting better, learn it. Right. So anyway, I committed to a Division II program that very few people even knew existed. Like I'd say my linebackers coach Gant knew about it. Coach Valoy, obviously, Coach McFadden were the only three coaches that knew where I was going. All the other teachers didn't know where I was going. Again, this is my school. The school I was a captain on this high school football team, and I could probably name only three people, and then obviously several of my teammates who I remain close with. Shout out to Danny. I got up with Danny. Danny lives out here in Palm Beach now. So long story short, very few people within my community or within my inner circle or just that saw me every day. Very few people who saw me every day knew what school I was going to out of high school, right? So what happened was I went to, I think it was either a graduation party or a birthday party. It was sort of late into my senior year. I think it was like either spring, it might have been around this time, spring, or, approaching summer where graduation was happening. And I went to Coach Vassos, from 2002 to 2007, he went and built I think he went into a new house or something like that. He wasn't in the same house that he had us in when we were kids and we would, spend the night and all that. He was at a different house. But so I went to this party, and this was the first time I'd seen Vassos in a while. Now I'd seen him at games because his son Nick went to Landon. So I might have, caught him at a scrimmage here and there, but never really got a chance to really, talk and, chat with him since that year, 2002, when, we won it all. So I see him at this graduation or this party, or we'll call it a birthday party just for the sake of this. I see him there, and this is like, yo, what up, Coach Vassos? You see, I done did my thing, you know what I'm saying? Because, you got to think, this is years now. Saw me in 6th grade when I was wearing number 51 and all the way through my senior year in high school. So he's been, keeping up with all that. So I'm like, what up, man? What's up, Coach? And so he sees me and he's like, oh, Aswan. Yeah, because, it gets announced where I'm going to school because it's good counsel and, they have that kind of platform to do it. And he announces it to everyone. He didn't have to go look at no notes. He didn't have to say anything. He goes, hey, guys, this is Aswan. And Aswan is going to be going to Carson Newman College. Congratulations, man. And I'm telling you, that absolutely hits me to this day to think about that, because the people that saw me every day at the damn high school that I went to, teachers that I knew didn't know where I was going to school. They just knew me as like the football player whose grades were, you know what I'm saying? But the fact that this was an individual who I had not seen or been in touch with for close to 4 years at this point would keep up with me throughout those 4 years, and then have it in his head, being able to spit it out. That's when you show people how much you care. So I know I went on a rant. I don't know if I have the ability to talk about Coach John Vassos without, getting all over the place. But just know, when you look at the definition, let me pull it back up just so we're clear. When you look at the definition of what I have coined as a wintrepreneur, everything I've said today should give you a clear indication as to why this man represented, and it should give you some motivation, some encouragement, some real incentive to show somebody, especially if it's a young person who looks up to you, show them how much you care. So much. It's so much more important to show them how much you care rather than trying to show them how much you know, and understand the lifelong effects that are going to come from simply doing that and doing that to the best of your ability. All right. So all that being said, as always, the main website to check out to dive deeper into all the work I'm doing, it's easy. Just go to makeyourmove.com. That's MAKEYAMOVE.com. It is your one-stop shop for all your teamwork and your self-development needs. As one Crookshank, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, checking out. You guys continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.